everyone, and welcome once again to Miami Minutes. This is the podcast where we swerve into your path of your podcast feed to jeer at you loudly from our cars into your cars, or wherever you listen to this show. I am one of the hosts, Niall McGowan.
I am your other host, John Parker, here to angrily shake my fist through every minute. And
shake harder, John.
I only allow you to listen to this podcast in a car or in a dojo.
It's just like, swear to God, if you're making your dinner and it's not in a dojo or in your car, I don't know, maybe you and your partner are split up and you're living in the car, that's perfectly acceptable.
It's fine. But I'm going to be here going, a kitchen?
I wasn't too sure. For a split second there, I thought you were doing a Hadoken thing. And then I realized, no, it's a friend.
That's the only way to improve this movie is Hadoken!
I thought maybe we should have an amnesty. Maybe if you were to undo the top button of your jeans and put a towel over your shoulder, then you can listen to it wherever you want.
If you do that, you're allowed to do whatever you want in life.
Yeah. That means if you're walking into the shops and listening to it, you have to have that going on, though.
Yeah. I mean, that's a given.
Yeah, or people in the shops now hearing this scrambling up to the homeware aisle. Give me a towel, for God's sake.
If you are in the shops right now listening, you better be unbuttoning those jeans.
Yeah, well. But anywho, as a person who is usually in a perpetual state of having unbuttoned jeans, whether deliberately or not, we're here today to talk about minute 25 of Miami Connection, which normally in our projects will be like, minute 25 is nothing. It's like, that's near enough halfway through the movie now, it feels like. But
it's crazy, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, that was part of the appeal of doing this. It's like, it's kind of short and we love it. But I still can't believe how fast we're flying through.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the plot's only just kicking in.
Yeah. Although, I have to say, the events of this minute took me by surprise, because I didn't remember this exact thing happening. I was like, as Dragon Sound themselves are confused at the end of the minute, I was a bit like, wait, what's happening here? But
I forget this every single time I watch it.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that is.
So, to anyone needs to know, minute begins with a car screeching, and it ends a minute later with a car greeting. Several cars greeting of the Dragon Sound. Because, they got these guys, they've grown a tail. They've swerved out from their triumphant gig. But, of course, they've been pursued by sinister agents who I thought I knew who they were for. And then at the end of the minute, I was like, are these different people? Wow. I'm sure now people who know the movie in and out will be like, you idiot, of course it's those people. I could have swore the guys in the car were Jeff's guys. But at the end of the minute, those are definitely Jeff's guys, because I recognize one of the guys who becomes one of the best characters in the movie later on. So then I got a bit confused. I don't remember this happening. But... Well,
spoiler alert, Niall. Spoiler alert. Sort of, I guess. It's not really spoiled. But all will be revealed next week.
Okay.
You find out exactly who they are. And I did not remember that for 1 second either.
It's just like, it was another random ninja biker gang was tailing these guys.
Well, do you want me to reveal it to you and edit it out?
Okay.
I was like, what? It's the other rock band who got fired.
Oh, okay.
And they're in cahoots with Jeff to beat these guys up.
So Jeff's double teaming them. He's got
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Maybe we should keep this in.
But they get in a fight about it. He's like, you got us fired, you piece of shit. It's like, what?
I was actually in my notes because I think last week we were talking about the driver there, he's wearing a saucy French beret. He's nowhere near fun enough to pull that off. I really got hung up on the guy on the other side with his gray flat cap in this, because it's like he looks like Jeff wearing a Peaky Blinders outfit.
Yeah.
And then I got really hung up on oh no, he actually looks loads like Brian Johnson from AC/DC, the lead singer.
It's 100% based on that look. Holy shit.
It would just be something they were the gang themselves were maybe they might figure out it was a rival band. If we dress up as another band, they'll be like, it was the guys from AC/DC came and beat us up. He's coming out, has to put on the voice like, you goddamn Dragon Sound sons of bitches.
I'm still never ever going to get over And I heard it because you sent me it when you were describing to me the live version of Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap.
Oh, yeah.
And the introduction he did. You want some dirty deeds?
It's the fact that it gets to a point where you can't understand. He's yeah. It'd be great though that they all got their wires crossed and like one of them's dressed as like Kiss and like, he's got Gene Simmons like, I thought you said Kiss. Like, no, I said AC/DC, idiot.
Specifically the cat guy from Kiss.
Yeah.
I saw a great meme about that where it was making fun of boomers, it was like boomers. Back in my day, rockers were real men. We had none of these furries and cat boys. And then it just shows them from Kiss. The ultimate cat boy.
Yeah, I think he always kind of got mocked for like, oh, he's the lame one. But now, like, who loves cats? Everybody loves cats on the internet now. So he'd be like, my makeup stood the test of time, I guess.
Yeah, true.
What's Gene Simmons remembered for? His goddamn tongue. No one cares about the makeup. Oh.
Yeah, people always talk about that tongue almost like it's sexual. But to be honest, it just kind of disturbs me more than anything.
Mm.
It's like, oh no, there's something wrong.
This always reminds me of Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy. Just Gene Simmons' tongue coming out of the phone. Oh, but yeah. So you may have done the same research that I did on this minute, John. I think there's a distinct risk of that because we are looking at cars so prominently. I went and checked out the Internet Movie Car Database.
This is the only time in history I haven't.
Oh, really? I thought that would have been because it's like so little happens in the minute. I assumed like that was my only call. I was like, I guess I'll go over there and see what
and
they
that's
got.
Usually what I do. I look up stupid guns and cars and pretend I know what I'm talking about.
But yeah, so I got the make and model of both cars that are driven in the scene. The bad guys are driving an Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme.
Right. Again, we are gearheads, of course. But over here, very different car culture to America. And I don't mean what we've previously talked about, like where we talked about how not everybody here drives. What I mean is totally different makes and models. America seemed to really, for a long time, promote their own vehicles.
Yeah.
So that is a brand we never got, I don't think ever, Oldsmobile, but I fucking love the name.
Oh, it's synonymous with me, the Oldsmobile, is because that was Sam Raimi's car, the really famous... Sam Raimi, obviously director of Evil Dead, Spider-Man, all that stuff. And he famously includes his, I believe he always describes it as puke yellow Oldsmobile from when he made the first Evil Dead movie in all his movies. So even like...
Wait, the actual same car? It's not like just a different one?
Well, that's the thing. Like, most of the details I got from it would have been from Bruce Campbell. Obviously, Bruce Campbell, if anyone doesn't know, I'm sure everybody knows. But Bruce Campbell, of course, the star of The Evil Dead, who's like lifelong friends with Sam Raimi, had an autobiography out like many years ago called If Chins Could Kill. And he talks about his hatred of the Oldsmobile in it. It was always referred to as the classic. And yeah, he's one of his big things is like, I hate that car so much. I can't wait. I desperately want, like, he feels that Sam Raimi is now putting it in things to spite him.
Oh, he probably is doing it as like a little joke, a little rip.
Yeah, and one of them was like, well, he made a Western, like The Quick and the Dead, and Bruce Campbell's like, thank Christ, there's no way he's put the Oldsmobile in here. And then at one point, Sam Raimi took him over, he's like, wait, do you see this? And took him over to like one of the wagons, and it lifted up the flap, and it was the car underneath, and he's just like, there it is, buddy. And at one point, then Bruce Campbell said, like, when they were rich enough and they could, like, okay, it doesn't matter anymore, we can afford stuff. He apparently paid a guy, like, let me into the shed, and he just took a sledgehammer to the car. He was just like, fuck, I hate this thing. And then he found out, like, no, there's like, Raimi's got like backups of it now.
He's bought like the whole stock.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it's a classic thing of like nearly every single Sam Raimi. I haven't actually checked Doctor Strange, the new Doctor Strange movie. I'm sure it's in there somewhere.
Oh, that'd be easy to slip it in. There's all kinds of like dimensions and time travel and stuff.
Yo, totally. You can slip that thing in. No problem whatsoever. Like, you got it in friggin' the Medieval Dead. For Christ's sake. Although they made a big thing, in the Evil Dead, when Ash gets sent back in time, the car goes with him. So I guess they were like, well, we be prepared for that. But they do a really good job in Ash versus Evil Dead as well, where they're like, they are actively sticking it to Bruce Campbell because he keeps his character in that keeps talking about his fondness for the car. And there's one point
that is just to annoy him.
At one point, he has like a little montage of him going like, "Oh," and it's like a great picture of Bruce Campbell kind of like wistfully looking up the sky as like 4 versions of the Oldsmobile rotate around his head with love hearts, and it cuts to him like kissing the car and stuff.
And
like,
you know, inside he's dying.
yeah, totally. but yeah, so as soon as I seen Oldsmobile, I was like, oh, it's that. But apparently, Sam Raimi's one is a Oldsmobile Delta 88, whereas this has the much more impressive name of Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme, which is like Delta kind of sounded impressive like back in the 80s before it was a COVID variant. And now
I didn't even think of that.
Now it's just got Delta 88. It's like, it's best back in 1988. That sounded very impressive, but now it sounds like, ooh, boy, that sounds old.
I always associate it, because I'm not a big Evil Dead person. Like, I've only seen 1 and 3. Weirdly, I've missed out the one everyone likes.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't really like 1, and 3 was okay. But, so to me, I always associate it with, they've got one of them in that 70s show. That's an Oldsmobile.
Yeah.
The one, I think it's the one with the wood panels on the side.
Oh, see, when I was a teenager, I always thought the wood panel car looked like the coolest thing ever. Like,
yeah, I think it's because we were born like in the 80s. So I've never seen that. Ever. Like, no. I don't think that was ever a thing over here either.
I think that would now be like seen as like, oh, it's a very dated look for a car. It's like, it looks awesome. The wood paneling on a car. Come on, man.
It's pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah. I reckon these days it probably is like you'd pay extra. Like, oh no, that takes a bit of looking after that as well.
Yeah. Although we're saying this now as a recording, and I'm sure now it'll probably be either it'll be the biggest hit of whenever, or it'll be long forgotten by the time this episode comes out. But we're recording this a week from the That 70 Show revival coming out on Netflix.
Yeah.
That 90 Show. And I have to say, it was one of those things. I watched like the first 3 seasons of That 70 Show. That's because I was a massive fan of it. I liked it, but it was
I'm a huge fan. I think I've got all of them on DVD.
I think I only seen like the first 3 seasons and then dipped in and out. So I'm actually weirdly looking forward to this revival because it just be like, that'll be a nice comfort show. Like, that'll be a nice bit of nostalgia to like to see the old characters. But then I don't know if I need to know a lot of like show lore because I'm like, well, I know the gists. But I don't know, like, towards the end, there was a lot of stuff that happened that I need to know about. But
no, I don't think you'll need to. I think it'll address everything, because I think the original characters are only coming in every now and then.
Yeah.
It's about a new set of kids, so...
My big thing watching the trailer, though, was, because I've not seen the original show in so long, where I was like, oh, man, this looks really terrible. Like... The jokes look awful, but at the same time, in the back of my head, is like, it does ring very true to That 70 Show as well, though. So
yeah, that's what it's like. It's a comfort show, as you say.
Yeah, you're kind of like, was it always just bad, and I just never realized, or was it just like that's the kind of the charm of it, is that it was, it's a bit of a crap show. But I know people who were like really into That 70 Show, who were like,
I think it's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I mean, the last couple of seasons are a bit iffy. Like once you get Topher Grace goes.
Yeah, once they happy days it, where they have like, we got rid of Richie Cunningham, but don't worry, Ted McGinley's here to fill in. You're like, what? Yeah,
so I think it'll address that, because you've seen that the original characters all meet up.
Yeah. It's in the trailer. Yeah, it does seem to indicate that perhaps ones that didn't go on to be as famous, like say Fez, for instance, might feature more as a character because Wilmer Valderrama ain't got nothing else to do. But like,
yeah, he's a bit problematic as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's one who's actively never going to be on that show because, dear God. But I think like Topher Grace and like Laura Prepon and stuff have got like enough going on. Although I guess Orange is the New Black isn't on anymore.
I was going to say, yeah, actually, that made me think because you were referring, what's his name? He's not going to be in it. Daniel Masterson.
Yeah,
is that his name? Because obviously we won't make this dark, but troubled past.
Mm-hmm.
But my first thought was, you know what? If he hadn't have done all that, they would have snapped him up for a second in this because he was already in the Netflix fold because he was in that show.
Oh, that's right. With Ashton Kutcher. Wasn't it?
What was it called?
The Ranch.
The Ranch. I was going to say The Farm. Same kind of thing.
Although The Farm doesn't sound... The Ranch makes it sound quite dignified. The Farm makes it sound like, well, they're probably out like shoveling crap and stuff.
Yeah, it's a very English version. But I didn't think that, Laura Prepon is also in the fold.
Yeah. I think like Topher Grace isn't like a superstar. Well, I guess he is because everybody knows who he is. But the last thing I remember him being in was Black Klansman. where he was perfectly like that guy. He played like the head of the Ku Klux Klan.
He was great in that one.
You see the picture of the guy at the end to show you like the real guy. It's like, oh, he looks exactly like Topher Grace. That's crazy. It's like now, like was Topher Grace's dad the head of the Ku Klux? What is this?
Maybe it's a relative. Yeah. So welcome to that 70s show.
Yes, but anyway,
that's what we're going to call
it. Although this is, I guess, more intensely would be relevant to that 80s show because the soundtrack going here is intensely. It's it's synth heavy, but yeah. So looked into a couple of through the Internet Movie Car database. You get a couple of little things that the Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme is in.
Other than that 70s show.
Yeah. I think
that's a different one. That's an Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser, wasn't it?
Although probably, in the background they could have had the Cutlass Supreme, but at any point, you never know. But
maybe.
But things it didn't appear in many things that were actually all that impressive, I have to say. One of them was called Dick Smart 2.007.
What?
I think it just came out in 1967. I think already then they were doing James Bond spoofs. It looks like it's just Austin Powers, but back then.
Well, it's even going the sexual route like Austin Powers, which I thought back then they wouldn't do too much. But it's called Dick Smart.
Yeah.
Is that is Booksmart a sequel?
It's the long-awaited 50 years later sequel to Dick Smart 2.007. That should now they're all gonna go. You got to revamp Bond again. That would be my angle. It's like everything's exactly the same, only except of like all the women's names being ridiculous, like Pussy Galore, and well, a lot of vagina was Austin Powers, but you know the type of thing. I mean,
well, that's Octopussy that's what their joke on that is, isn't it?
Yeah. But they should just it's exactly the same. Only all the guys are called really. So you do have Dick Smart, and huge ass and stuff like that.
Well, this is why I know people scoff at it because they're dickheads, but I think it would be fun to do a female sort of Bond, but do it like old Bond, where she's just like going around like flirting with people, men, women, everyone. It's just really like make her Sean Connery, but a woman.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, and then it also features in something I only took note of it because just because of the title, A Lovely Way to Die. Which sounds,
is there such a thing?
It kind of sounds a bit like a Bond title, but also kind of like if Bond was like visiting his grandmother, if that was the plot line, it would be called like A Lovely Way to Die.
Well, and he helps her pass because she's struggling by putting a pillow over her face and shooting her.
Euthanasia via Bond. And then at the end, you'd have to be like, I don't know, like, I'm trying to think of like a euthanasia joke.
He'd make a gag about it.
Oh, she was always so smothering, or something like that. But no, apparently it stars Kirk Douglas and Eli Wallach, who anyone listens to Batman will know. I'm a huge Eli Wallach fan. Because he did play Mr. Freeze at one point back in the 60s show. But just seeing I love the plot summary of a cop quits the force after too much disappointment in the system. He becomes a bodyguard of a rich, recent widow. She is on trial for her husband's murder. He decides to help her clear her name and get over her husband.
What's it implying?
I was like, I see. All right, you sold a seat there. A lovely way to die.
Plus, I'm pretty sure it sounds like her husband has only recently died. So, number one, that's a bad move anyway. Don't be doing that. Number two, she's been framed for his murder. So she's in a bad place, man. What are you doing? Don't take advantage of these people.
The 60s was a horny time, John. They had movies out called Dick Smart 2.007. But yeah, so apparently the Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme also features in Rushmore and Blade. But not in any prominent way, unfortunately. They showed you like a little picture in Rushmore, and it's literally like Max Fisher crossing the street, and it's just in the background. You're like, oh, it's not like his car.
It's still cool. Like that's actually, I'm surprised there isn't a Rushmore minute show that I know.
There should be. There's like any Wes Anderson stuff. There's a guy who packs every friggin' frame with details. So it's. I know that Scott Corelli did franchisography. He went through all the Wes Anderson, did a great job of it, but still like. each episode was like 2 hours long, still only scratching the surface of those
Imagine
movies.
a minute by minute, like, Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh, it'd be terrific. Yeah. Oh, my God. There's so much to talk about now.
And I'm not saying we're going to do it. We're busy people.
Yeah.
We already give you, like, 2 shows. Well, 4, technically.
Yeah. But, hey, friggin' maybe like 5 years from now, maybe we ain't got nothing else going on. Why not do the Grand Budapest Hotel minute? But yeah, so from that, not to take up too much time, but also then we do get the guy's car. Like a dragon sounds. I was really disappointed it wasn't like a dragon-themed car or something. But,
yeah, that would have been awesome.
Yeah, but this is the Chevrolet Impala convertible, which is a very swanky car. Because it's like, I think I've even heard of that in the past already. Like,
I've definitely heard the name Impala, yeah.
And I just really... it wasn't in that many things of note. But yeah, well, apparently it features in... as they've put it on the Internet Movie Car Database, The Boss Baby.
Oh, I thought it was just Boss Baby.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Is it following in the Batman vein? Of like, the revamp. No, this is the new Boss Baby. It was called The Boss Baby. But,
it's the gritty reboot.
Yeah, but this guy, I never knew. I would have always been calling it the Boss Baby if I'd known. Because I was always presented as... I remember seeing with Baby Roommate, as he was once known. He used to watch the Boss Baby cart, like those little animated series on Netflix. And the theme tune was always like, Boss Baby, Boss Baby, Boss. They never went, the Boss Baby. So, and I'm pretty sure all the posters just said Boss Baby. So I mean, I'm into it, but,
You made that song then, I can't sing this, but you made it sound like the theme tune to that famous blaxploitation movie, Boss N-word.
I mean, maybe that could be where they got it from, to be honest with you. They're like, big fan of the genre. And that song tried, because of the wording in it, probably won't see a wide audience now. So we're bringing it back as
they called him Boss Baby.
Is also featured in a movie with 2 exclamation points in the title. Although let's see what you're thinking on this is, John, because I was a bit like, would that be the way you present that? It was in a Chuck Norris movie called Breaker Breaker. As they like the CV radio, you go breaker breaker. Blah, 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 blah.
So it's breaker exclamation mark breaker exclamation mark.
Yeah, where in my mind it would be breaker comma breaker exclamation mark.
Yes, no, that's the correct English.
Yeah,
it's not breaker.
Yeah,
is it?
Because that makes you kind of in your mind just go stop. You stunt it a little bit. And so it doesn't seem right to have it that way. But
this is an American thing. I sound like I'm really anti-American on this show. I'm not. I love you. We were reviewing one of...
This is going to be like... John, with the big insight. You just spin-off book of just like, reason why I hate the Yanks.
No. It's just, it's interesting to point out the differences. And it's an American thing, and I've been noticing it a lot lately. Americans will often say 2 words as if they're one word, like very fast. There's no gap in between them. And I especially noticed it the other day because there was like a jokey thing people were talking about. What do you mean by red sauce? Because in England, it's like what we call ketchup for some stupid reason.
Yeah.
It's sauce and it's red. In America, it's what they call like a tomato pasta sauce.
But have they combined it into like red sauce? Like this?
Yes, but they write it as red sauce, but they say red sauce. And I'm like, no, red sauce. Not red sauce. Like, and they do it with apple sauce. Applesauce. It's like, no, it's apple sauce. There's a gap.
That's like I'm looking forward now. I think by the end of this, like we've only got like 50 minutes left or something. But like I actively think you're going to be in a full on. If you're never this bad with the hatred of the American language on Batman, I don't know what this movie's bringing out in you.
I don't know. I don't know. I love American things. Look at me. We're covering an American movie technically. Okay, it's Korean as well. But
yeah.
But it's just interesting to note the differences. And when it comes to language, it does annoy me a little bit because it's our language. It's our language. God damn it. But I'll defend other things, right? I hate English people do this all the time, and I hate this. They make fun of Irish names by saying like, oh, that's crazy, isn't it? You don't say it the way it's written. And I'm not even Irish, and I have to be like, no, It's because it's from another fucking language. It's not English. That's you do say it the way it's written in the language.
Yeah. But the only reason I brought up The Boss Baby is because like they would specifically, that's an animated movie, so they'd specifically have to go out of their way. Like, well, we want a Chevrolet Impala convertible, and that's like go and make sure you replicate that on screen.
Hell yeah.
Other movies it featured in was Succula, which is a porn parody of Dracula, starring the bum from Back to the Future. You know, that guy,
amazing.
Buck Flower. I have to say though, I was a bit like, let's see that title, and I was a bit like, Succula. It's like it kind of sucks as a Dracula porn spoof.
I kind of like it because back then you couldn't just put like Cockula. Yeah.
I was trying to think though, because I was like, there's got to be better names than that. And I was like, Snackula. Snackula, I guess, would be like nowadays. You go like, oh, he's a Snackula or something like that.
Oh, it'd have to be a woman though. I think with a big booty.
Yeah. Oh, the other one then I had was Ass Crackula, and then someone suggested Bram Strokes Her.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So then it could be, you could have, if you wanted to do like a spoof of the Francis Ford Coppola. The Gary Oldman Dracula, which was called Bram Stoker's Dracula. You could have Bram Strokes Her's Ass Crackula.
That's amazing. Holy shit. We used to play this game when I worked in a video game shop. It was when you're bored. And it wasn't like being gross. Lots of women were involved as well. And we'd just be looking at the games and be like, what can you come up with for this? You know, and everyone had the obvious ones like Call of Booty.
Yeah.
I did come up with one I quite liked. Instead of Command and Conquer, it was Command and Bonker. It was a fetish movie, I decided.
Oh, but were you saying command or command?
I wasn't, but now I am.
Oh. Going back, phoning up the people in game from like 12 years ago. Like, by the way, just in your minds, make sure that you're aware that that's definitely what I was saying back then.
It's actually about 17 years ago.
And the only other thing that I really know that it was in, that and I specifically sent you something relevant to it earlier, John.
Yeah.
But it also features in, the Chevrolet Impala convertible also features in The Weird Al Show.
Yeah.
Which was the short-lived, one of those baffling things like, oh, Weird Al had a TV show and it only lasted one season. And you're like, how?
I know, yeah. And I've seen clips from it before. Like, there's a famous one, I think it's from that same show, where he's interviewing, so to speak, Eminem. But he's not really, it's fake.
Although I don't know about that, because I know actually, from looking into this now, I was aware that he had a TV show. I didn't realize it's all on YouTube. Like, every episode is on YouTube. And so now it's like, there's only like 8 episodes. I'm like, well, I know what I'm doing this week. But yeah, it just seems so bonkers that like Weird Al's such a beloved person, but like that movie made UHF didn't have any impact over here.
No, nobody. Even I, as a Weird Al fan who's got, I don't have every album, but I've got about 6 of them. I've never seen it.
I'll say I only watched it recently in the build-up to his biopic coming out.
Which was amazing.
Oh, it's fantastic. And then even at the end, it has there's a spin-off single, written by Weird Al called UHF, and it's fucking great. It's an absolute banger of a song. You're like, why was this not a big thing over here? But
and Weird Al with a TV show should be the greatest thing in the world.
I think there's, from looking into it, it seemed to be more like it was supposed to be like his Pee-wee's Playhouse, but apparently they found trouble in combining his humor with kid-friendly stuff.
Why? He's like really wholesome.
I don't know, because maybe sometimes he does drift into things that could be potentially conscious, but I think it's a guy like the joke will be, it's called, the song was called Beat It, and this one's called Eat It, and it's about eating. Like that's
exactly. There's very few times he ever comes out with anything adult.
Yeah.
Very, very few, because he's a very religious man. Actually, he's Christian. So he's never going to do anything really like disgusting.
According to his biopic, though, you wouldn't know he was Christian from all those horrible things he was doing with Madonna. Like, dear God.
All true as well.
No, of course. But I only brought it up, though, because from that, I found that clip that I sent you earlier, which was just like the highlight of my week of, if anyone's not seen it, there's a scene where, for some reason, that doesn't seem to have anything to do with the rest of the episode, Macho Man Randy Savage just breaks onto the sets. Has a whole big, like, I'm going to take you down, Weird Al. And then, like, proceeds to chase him around. Weird Al is just like, all right, Macho Man, you're in for it now, buddy. And just takes a hamster, puts it on the ground. It's like, this guy's gonna knock that crap out of you. And then you just see Macho Man like gearing up and doing a full-on like people's elbow, like elbow drop onto this hamster.
It's the Macho Man elbow, yeah. It's his finishing move.
And which, like, seeing that, I had to stop the clip and just because all they've done is put like a little bit of fluff down on the thing, pretending it's a hamster. But just him actually fully going for it, and I'm so into it. And he's wearing like sunglasses that are like shark's teeth and stuff.
Oh yeah, I loved that era of Macho.
Oh, it was so good just to see him again. It's like, oh, there he is. And then just like it cuts to like Weird Al making a bunch of like ooh ee ah kind of faces, and then cuts back and it's Macho Man flat in his stomach with the hamster on his back, going like, get it off me.
It's a bit like the rabbit from Holy Grail.
Exactly, yeah. And then it's just basically like, I hope you learned your lesson, Macho Man Randy Savage. And then I was like, that was like a minute of my life that was like the greatest thing. It was out of nowhere, 1 minute. It's like, there you go, that improved my entire day seeing that.
Same. I'd never seen it before, which is crazy as a huge Macho fan.
I think that him jumping on that freaking hamster should be like GIF City. That should be everywhere all the time. But nuts, absolutely nuts. But yeah, so that's basically because there's so little happening in this minute. The two notes in the car, that's all I got. Like that was
I love the way we're half an hour in and I've done one of my notes out of like 15.
Oh, well, you take it away, John, because I ain't got much else.
They're not really in depth or anything. I just thought it was quite interesting that we're back to this weird lighting and color scheme we had at the start of the movie, which it always has in the nighttime scenes. There's a very sort of a blue tinge.
It's what I always consider the Terminator lighting.
Yeah, and you know what's weird about it, right? In a good way. Like, I know it's probably just the best they could do with limited equipment and money and whatnot, but I think there's two things about it that's fantastic. Number one, I think it makes everything look very real. Mm-hmm. Like, it looks gritty, not in a cheesy way, but it looks dark in the tone. I like that. It's the mean streets. Look at them. They look kind of tough and a bit scary. And also, I think, despite a cool color palette, this look, it gives off that the place is hot. Which is weird. Like, you can give a warm feeling with a cool color palette, but they pull it off. Like, warm places I've lived have this kind of look, and I don't know why. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. That's good. Because the streets actively look wet as well.
Yeah, but like humid wet.
Yeah. I mean, we were saying last week too. Like, they come out, they ain't wearing jackets. It's the middle of the night, but still too warm for jackets in Orlando. So.
Oh, exactly. If it was this time of night in England, you're wearing 3 layers.
Oh God, yeah. Oh Jesus Christ, yeah, definitely. But no, it is a beautiful lighting. Again, I always consider it just like it's very reminiscent of the first two Terminator movies. Actually, then that was kind of the big things when they had that one. Was it Terminator Genesis? I always want to pronounce it like that guy from Search for Spock. The Genesis.
Hang on, Genesis is the one with John Connor being evil.
Yeah, but I think that's the one with Emilia Clarke, right?
Yes.
And because I remember after the disappointment of Salvation, where they had like, here's the future war, and it looks like all deserty.
Yeah, and it was like the middle of the day, even though he explicitly said in the first movie they can't move around in the day. Yeah.
And so I was like, that didn't look right. And then to see the trailers for Genesis as like, Terminator Genesis is a perfectly watchable movie. It's just not very good. But they had that blue tinge over it again. And I was like, oh, it looks like a Terminator movie. Great. It was this lighting.
That's the lighting you need for a Terminator. I actually haven't seen Dark Fate because I heard what happened in the opening few minutes and got angry. Does it have the color palette?
Not really, no. No, it's very muted kind of grays and stuff and throughout all that.
That's not Terminator.
It's not. The thing is, so it's not actually all that bad a movie. It's just like a terrible idea at the beginning, and then the fact that the rest of it's just like, well, our great innovative idea was to be like, here's a new John Connor, and Skynet.
You already had one,
and here's a new Skynet. And you're like, and then here's the end of Terminator 2 again. And you're like, yeah, I like that the first time.
We've done it.
It's like, that franchise ended like and you've still not brought the freaking Terminator 3. Nobody likes that one. At least it was doing something new. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I'll always say that about 3. I don't particularly like it, but it was trying its best to make a coherent movie, acknowledging that a sequel shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Because he ended that second one in such a way. It was almost like a deliberate challenge to the studio of like, you can't fucking make a sequel now, screw you.
It's kind of weird now, years later, he's like, I'm making all the Avatar movies, and people are like, please. Just, even though I'll say this now, like, freaking the second one's, the second one's doing great. I don't know anybody who's seen it.
I don't know a single person who's seen it. I think he bought all the tickets.
Yeah, it's one of these things. I'm like, usually, like, I wouldn't. Like, I'm supposed. My brother, he was all gung ho about seeing it over Christmas, and then it became more of like, well, it is 3.5 hours long. It's got this thing of then like, I do want to see it, but I don't want to see it. I don't want to have to sit for the 3.5 hours. I'll watch it at home. But then everyone's like, no, you have to see it in the cinema. That's the
problem, because you know it's going to be a spectacle movie.
Yeah. So if there was like, I don't know, a screening, you could like, maybe if you could go in and out of, I suppose you can't go in and out of any screening, really.
I suppose if the cinema was like a 5-minute walk from my house, I would go. But the cinema is like a 20-minute bus ride. So I'm like,
yeah. I think so. Well, I think the Odeon too have things that maybe I'll go near the end of the run. You know, maybe.
Well, I can get in for free.
Yeah.
You know, because I've got my free thing I get from Cineworld, and I've still not gone.
No?
I have taken no advantage of that free thing, because I've got... The only person who would go to the cinema with me, really, is you. And you'd have to go out of your way, because going to town's easier.
Yeah.
And also, like, you go... Because you work for yourself, you can go at a better time.
Yeah.
I'd have to take you at like 8 p.m. minimum.
Yeah. Well, my whole thing is just like, yeah, well, you know... 2 p.m. on a Wednesday. That's optimal time. No one's ever there. It's great. You know,
I would do the same thing if I had the choice.
Yeah. My big thing now is like, because I'm really looking forward to this thing. And again, by the time this episode airs, it'll be long out, probably on streaming. But that movie Megan with the robot doll,
that looks pretty cool.
Oh, it's supposed to be amazing, but you know, in the same vein of amazing that like Malignant is amazing. But people are like, oh, you have to see it in the cinema, like packed house of people. It's a great, and I'm like. Yeah, but I hate people. Like,
plus, I disagree. I haven't seen it, so maybe I'm wrong. But Avatar, I get. It's all about the spectacle. But that's like a horror movie, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think people are like, the kind of vibe is like, oh no, people, you need to be there with people to kind of get everyone laughs at the same time. Everyone's like,
See, I'm not into that with horrors, though. If I'm, like, sat on my own in the house, it's extra scary. Or even just one other person in the dark on, like, a Friday night.
I think the vibe of this, though, is that it's not scary. It's more just, like, ridiculous. But the thing is, I do want to watch it with people, but I'll be like, oh, I'll watch it with, like, Gary and maybe a few other people. You can come if you want. And, like, in the house. Yeah, that's great. But then if I go, like, if I went to cinema, like, I'd want to go by myself. And then I'm not going to be into this communal thing of, like, everyone around me making noise. So it's kind of like I'm a crossroads with Megan. It's like, I kind of want to see it in the cinema to give it the money. Because, like, support original concepts. Like, freaking Killer Doll. Like, I mean,
I was going to say, hang on, we've seen that a few times now.
And even specifically, like, oh no, it's an AI-controlled Killer Dog. It's like, that was the Child's Play remake. That was the Aubrey Plaza Child's Play movie.
They're really trying to get that concept to work this time.
I think at this time I'm more supportive of it, though, because I didn't support that Child's Play remake at all. Because it's like, there's a perfectly good Child's Play story going on right now in the films. Why are you distracting me with this?
Fair enough if it had been like 20 years since the last movie or something. You'd be like, okay, whatever.
And they actively had to go make a TV show to be like, yeah, so just forget about that. Forget the remake even happened.
Just to really like bleach it from your mind. Wasn't it?
It was probably like just the Don Mancini and Brad Dourif going, well, anyway, so back to business.
Speaking of back to business,
of course,
back in the minute. So we've barely talked about the minute, but again, we warned you about this at the beginning. So our boys are driving some more, and those other cars emerge from the other direction that you mentioned. They trap them. It's a setup.
Yeah, it's well organized. Like it's. I did have to think like. Because I think we were talking about last week, were those guys in the Dragon Sound gig originally, and then they came out knowing the thing is over? Or, like, were they just waiting outside for, like, hours?
Well, it's all been organised by Jeff and co, hasn't it? So I reckon these guys actually were, despite what I might have said before, I think they were waiting there all night, just waiting for them to leave. Like, this is their one job.
The thing is now, because the other crew show up so specifically timed. it's like, oh, maybe Jeff has been out to Dragon Sound like every night this week to be like, okay, so the set ends at this time, and they'll be coming out in the car.
It's quite possible, actually. Yeah.
It's like the reason the Dragon Sound is like the hottest band in town is because Jeff and his crew keep buying tickets to them every night to sit.
They're the only people in the crowd.
Yeah, and he's like, I can't afford to go to them tonight. Like, okay, just make sure to drive up when they're coming then, at least, all right?
It's a bit like if we ever have a Liverpool gig, it's a bit odd because half the crowd are your mates. It's like, so is this a successful gig then or what? I don't know.
And then, I mean, we're then too, like when they get out there, like, wafting those baseball bats. And then Dragon Sound's sitting there going like, is this the crowd? Like, is this like a really aggressive encore call or something?
Yeah, you left before the encore. We wanted another song.
Get back there and play. Like, sorry, guys, we ran out of pyrotechnics. We can't play any more songs without pyrotechnics.
So, the gang, they're ready to take out the band once and for all. And all I could think was that this whole thing, to me, just had a very Warriors vibe. You know, Dragon Sound, come out to play. Clink some bottles together.
Yeah. Do you remember who says that in the movie too?
It only dawned on me when I was writing that note. I was like, hang on a minute. That was Jerry from Twin Peaks.
Yeah. Or Sully from Commando or something.
When you realize how many amazing things he's been in, you're like, this guy's like one of the greatest actors ever.
Oh yeah, David Patrick Kelly, like he is. It's like, oh yep, that's a good old fashioned character actor. Yeah. Just like in tons of stuff. Every time you see him, you're like, hey, it's him. I love this guy.
He's always one of the best things in every single movie.
Even like his random subplot in Twin Peaks: The Return about his shoe being alive or whatever that was.
Fucking brilliant.
It's like everyone's just like, where is Cooper? Where is Cooper? Like, here's some footage of Jerry Horn trying to fight with his foot or something like
for 20 minutes. He's the only thing that would have improved this movie. Put him in this scene. Yeah, Dragon Sound.
Yeah, totally. Actually, maybe he does show up next minute, but I'm surprised Jeff himself isn't present here, because he does have representative. There's notable people from his gang are there.
Yeah, but you know the big boss doesn't do the dirty work.
Yeah, he's seen enough. I know it's only midway through the decade when they were filming this, but he's seen enough 80s action movies to know. No, I gotta sit back in a chair. And then when something serious happens, I come out. But
he slowly rises from the chair. It's like a video game, isn't it? You have to fight to the boss. It's like Streets of Rage.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the big, like, I always remember that guy. Was it called Mr. X? Was the big main villain? But he always had that level just before him, and him just sitting at the desk looking at you. And he's like, all right, asshole. Then he gets up and he's like 10 times the size. He's like, oh Christ! And he's got a gun as well.
That's cheating. See, that's unfair. Someone needs to, we probably said this before, make a side-scrolling Dragon Sound beat 'em up.
1,000,000%. Yeah.
Going through the streets.
I don't know, because it feels like this movie's like a pretty big cult hit, but like it the Room's got so much clout. I feel they could do I think people have probably made the Room video game.
There are some fan games I've seen, yeah.
Yeah, but no, there really should be more people on. Like, this movie in particular lends itself to so many things. Like,
yeah,
we've amassed so much of like the novelization, all these things we keep pitching. We can't do them all, people. Like, someone else has to go.
A team recently did bring Streets of Rage back, didn't they? With Streets of Rage 4, which was very well received.
Loved it.
And there is a Cobra Kai game that's like a Streets of Rage knockoff. And that's pretty fun. Like, it's not amazing. It's very, very low budget. But
is it legal? Or?
It's legal. Yeah. It's a proper official.
Oh,
official
okay.
Game.
I don't think I heard about it.
It's fun. It's like, it's not great, but it's like a solid kind of like 7 out of 10, like a nice.
Is it kind of like this is Johnny Lawrence's dream of what his life is like?
That's how I like to think of it, anyway. Yeah.
But no, this thing perfectly lends itself. Because you could throw in Guitar Hero levels.
Yeah.
You could do so many. So like
and you can imagine this level, like walking through these dark streets.
Yeah.
And you got like jumped every 2 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it ends in a car chase, and you have to get away from this roaming band of like people throwing baseball bats at you and stuff.
Yeah.
And, it would be amazing. But
if only.
And then, the final fight then against Yoshito and all that. And then Jeff, of course, be the sub boss, all that kind of stuff. It's
we'll sell you that idea, Grandmaster Kim. Get in touch. Actually, we'll let you have it.
Maybe he just needs to get in touch with Tommy Wiseau and be like, I can see that you have clearly made like this your whole thing, but it's doing amazing for you.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like Miami Connection, it's known to like aficionados of the bad movie scene, but I don't think it's broken through to like because every time I mention the show to people, to be fair, every time I mention Batman to people, I have to explain exactly what that show is.
People at least understand when you say it's about Batman. They go, oh, but when I say, it's about Miami Connection, they're like, what's that?
You have to literally go through the whole story of like, well, Miami Connection was made in the 80s. And I was like, there's a whole big thing. It's like, and that's the reason why you should listen to, or watch the film and listen to the show.
Yes.
But yeah, I really feel they needed more of a the Alamo Drafthouse, whoever should be like, this should have computer tie-ins. It should have much more merchandising. They should be touring the world with this thing, much like Tommy and Greg. So,
absolutely. Oh, I love it here though. John cannot believe what's going on. See that look on his face? I'm with the dude. They, all they are is a cool rock band. What the fuck is all this? What's going on?
My whole note was basically like, Dragon Sound have no idea what they've done. Why would they? They haven't done anything. Because...
No, and next minute I'm going to talk about it more, but when it's revealed what they've done, they're even more in the dark. They're like, what?
It really is like a friggin', not one gang, but two gangs are after these guys. And it's like, we're just a band, man. Again, I'm growing up with a girl who draws circles on a computer. Like, what the hell is this? I didn't do anything.
I'm totally with them. Like, Mark looks lost. I'm lost. Like, I didn't think this is where things were going. What the fuck?
You may be like, did people hate us that much? Do they want their money back? Like, what is this? Doesn't make any damn sense.
I do like the lack of physical action from the band, though. Like, it does get a little bit weird towards the end of the minute that nobody's moving. They're barely even talking to each other.
I mean, I don't mind that, because I think I would be just a bit dumbfounded. Like, there's the four, I wasn't too sure it was 4 or 5. Well, I guess there's 5 because one's behind them. But, like, full of people, like good old. Some of them are like pickup trucks, like hillbilly, freaking guys who'd be like willing to come out and like freaking nail you to a tree or something, like hillbilly looking trucks, and they're just brimming with people.
Yeah,
all of them have got baseball bats or some kind of weapon.
A much cooler weapon than a cricket bat, let's be honest. Except Shaun of the Dead, I'll let that off.
I said, did you see all the hubbub when Halloween Kills came out?
Oh no!
And they had. The evil dies tonight crowd of people.
Evil dies tonight.
So Halloween Kills now is becoming more of a better movie because of the memes. Basically.
Oh yeah, I liked it from minute one because it was silly.
Yeah. Well, thing is, it treats itself so seriously. Is the kind of the problem.
But that's silly.
But that was one of the things that became instantly like it. To be fair to it, it became an instant classic with the evil dies tonight, where like Anthony Michael Hall just rounds up like a lynch mob to go after Michael Myers. And then people love the fact that, like, you see this crowd of people and they've all got, like, baseball bats and, the leg of a table. And there's this one middle-aged woman with an iron. She's brought out an iron to kill. And then people on the meme page are calling her, like, the Iron Maiden. And, like, really set up a fan page for her and everything of, like, that one lady who brought an iron to kill Michael Myers. I was like, now I would freaking love. I'm just like, maybe her when she was younger. She's just in the back of the van with her own iron there. So you have to be fair though. You're swinging an iron around on the friggin' on a wire. Jeez, that'll do some goddamn damage. But,
it doesn't even need to be hot. Like they weigh a lot.
I mean, in classic, if people know their British soap lore, a man who's become, particularly in our circles, very relevant recently was Trevor from EastEnders.
Oh yeah.
Back in the early 2000s, where he was the abusive husband of Little Mo.
Yeah.
And then he got, like, she ended up, friggin' grabbing an iron and then clatter Mo over the head with it. And then it became a big thing about Little Mo and the iron. Was like kind of, this is what people did back in the early 2000s over here. We didn't have much else going on. A lot of talk about Little Mo and the iron. And then in recent years, friggin' Trevor keeps popping up and stuff.
Yeah.
Like he's bollock naked in Chernobyl. Like you're just sitting there, you have to get in these guys to dig up the friggin' graphite and stuff off the roof. And they're like, well, it's literally boiling hot there. They're not going, and they don't realize, like, well, you should, there's loads of radiation around. You probably shouldn't go near that. So it's just Trevor walking around with this completely naked, just like, yep, we're shoveling up the graphite. And then he's in Andor. He was the guy who was with, who kept egging on the creepy security guy who was like obsessed with.
About that.
Yeah, there's like that the little guy next to him. We keep saying to him, that's Trevor. And then his big thing is that he was the commissioner in the Batman.
Yeah.
He was the guy freaking got kidnapped by the Riddler and he has the rat put down his throat and stuff. And like, he has a big beard. But after I was like, that was Trevor. Oh my God. It's like,
he's back in beard form.
and the Riddler killed him with an iron. As in tribute to, it's like, shoved an iron down his throat or something.
They should have slipped that in somehow. That would have been great.
Yeah.
Oh.
But all very relevant to a Miami connection.
Totally relevant. I suppose there's me dissing that they haven't done anything, but the bad guys haven't yet either. You know, so it's kind of like a standoff, isn't it? As the minute ends, like not a Mexican standoff, just a straight up standoff.
I guess does the crowd know the Dragon Sound? Don't know what they're doing? Like, are they there? You think you need the mouth of Sauron to come out here and be like,
my master Jeff bids thee welcome.
Oh man, the mouth of Jeff. Oh my, it's just like he has no head. He's just a giant beard with a huge mouth in the center of it.
Yes, that'd be amazing. He's my favorite character in Lord of the Rings, the mouth of Sauron. Oh, I fucking love him so much. His little grin he does at one point.
I just love too that like when we read the books in school, it was just like the mouth of Sauron is just a guy. He's like a representative. He's called the mouth of Sauron because he is his mouthpiece. And then Peter Jackson's like, he's a giant mouth. Like,
yeah. Why not? They all look weird, monstrous sort of things anyway, you know.
Like Sauron's sense of humor was just like, I need someone to be my spokesman. Hey, Mouthy, come over here.
Hey, you got the big mouth over there.
He ain't got any eyes. He always got some mouth. Get out there. And then everyone calls Sauron like IE or something behind his back.
Oh, brilliant.
I think he has like the nose of Sauron and stuff too. It's just like, well, I'm slowly gathering a face. I got one eye, I got a mouth.
And they've got to all merge together like a Zord from Power Rangers.
That should have been the real ending. Was just then Aragorn and like the Bernard Cribbins or Bernard Hill coming together. The Gondor joins with the elves. They all make their big Zord and stuff.
Should have been a giant mecha fight at the end. That'd be amazing. But speaking of amazing, I listened to the commentary track for this minute as well, and they bring up how this exact place, is a very popular downtown location. So the person sort of interviewing them, so to speak, on the commentary, because it's kind of like, it's not a normal commentary. It's like an interview about what we're seeing. Yeah. He's like, well, how did you get, permission? And Kim, turns out Kim got the shooting permissions. You're probably going to guess why. For this scene, due to how famous and popular he is locally. Yet again, the police commissioner and the mayor were just like, yeah, sure thing, you can just shoot wherever you want. He didn't have to do anything. He didn't have to pay any money. Nothing. He was just like, yeah, okay, Kim, yeah, you do what you want.
Well, I just love the idea of YK Kim being like, I need to talk to the mayor.
It's a very American thing. Nobody talks to the mayor about anything here.
Imagine him gathering the police commissioner and the mayor together.
It's very Batman.
Yeah. Or maybe he has like a signal up at the top of the room.
the Grandmaster.
Yeah, up the top of the dojo, there's like a signal that just says like YK or something.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Holy shit.
And then they have to come to him, and he's like, all right, guys, so here's the deal. I need permission to shoot on this street.
That is pretty wild, though, isn't it? Because you'd assume shutting it down to shoot a movie like this, it'd be like, okay, if we're going to allow this, you've got to pay some money. Yeah,
because imagine Orlando's not really a town. Like, it's a pretty metropolitan place, right? I imagine it's not like a town that sleeps.
I don't think it does it? I mean, again, we're not sure because we're not over in America and we've never been. But my impression is, it's a pretty big place, isn't it? It's like a big city.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you could never, there's no point that, like, in New York, you could close down the street without being a pain in the ass, because it's 24/7, it's bustling. Whereas, like, my hometown, you could shoot this, no problem. And like, if it was, like, 2 a.m., sure, no one's around, it's great.
Yeah, but even like, Liverpool, you'd have problems, I think.
Yeah, but Orlando, I imagine this would be a pain in the ass to have to do this, but...
You'd think,
Yeah.
Especially if it's a popular downtown location.
Unless this was
you
like...
could imagine them going, you can use like a back street, I guess.
Unless this was like random B-roll footage of the people complaining about the street getting closed off.
Yeah, these are actors. No, the commentary does reveal that, yet again, these are students.
Oh, wow. It really is just like, I mean, literally every person on screen is going to be a student of IKChem.
How many students did he have?
I mean, the guy was like a millionaire before they even made it, so.
I know, but fucking hell.
I say before he made it as if he made money on this.
Yeah, he lost money.
Yeah.
As we've talked about in episode 0, he lost a lot of fucking money. I hope he's made it back now.
Oh, I hope so. Oh, I mean, I'm sure he was fine, but it was.
Well, he ended up fine, but I imagine it was like a lean couple of years.
Yeah.
But the only other thing I've got is the drinking game, if you're done.
Oh, yeah, I'm all noted that.
Well, the drinking game, technically nothing. But should we, for the sake of the listeners, allow the shaking of fists to count as a fist pump? Just so people can have a drink. I mean, it is a different intent, but still.
I think maybe they're doing their wafting of the baseball bats in mocking of the Taekwondo. Like, that's why...
That'd be good if some of them were shouting, Taekwondo! Taekwondo sucks!
Yeah. I mean, if you've already got if you've got your shot poured or whatever, don't let it gather dust for a week. By all means, count it. But
no, it's got to sit there for a week. Put it in the fridge. It'll be fine. No, you know what? I'm going to allow it. If you want to have a drink, we'll count the shaking of fists to be one fist pump. You can have one. Let's go.
Although, have we had any weeks without a drink? I think it's literally been, like, if people were following our instructions, you would literally have to drink every minute of Miami Connection.
Well, that's what I'm hoping for, but technically, this is 0 drinks. But, I'm letting them off, sort of. You can have one.
Yeah.
One only. If you have 2, I'm sending the police round. I'm coming round myself with a baseball bat.
Yeah, it's just like... us hiring like 4 other cars of people to show up. The sound's happening.
We're gonna fucking have you.
And then it's like probably weeks after like the episode's aired, people are like, "What?" It's like, yeah, it's exactly what Dragon Sound said.
Oh, right, but you know what? This is the most off the rails episode I think we've had, and I mean that in the most incredible, loving way. We've made it work for the listeners. I hope you enjoyed this episode, despite the fact all it really featured was a car turning a corner.
I mean, if nothing else, I hope that this episode has inspired people to look up that clip of Macho Man Randy Savage on the Weird Al show, because that's better than literally anything anybody else has ever done, ever. So
yeah, ever in history, basically. So do that, and join us again in 1 week's time for more Miami Minutes. In the meantime, as usual, speak to us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just look us up, Miami Minutes. We're on all of those. And why don't you send us an email? Nobody ever emails us because it's antiquated, but it is there as an option if you would prefer. MiamiMinutesPodcast@gmail.com. And yes, we will see you again in 1 week. Miami Minutes listeners, come out to play. Hiya!
Listen to me.